monsters. Good day to you, partner. I'm keen, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. So we get the pleasure today of enjoying Topwoog, the Canadian Blunder, finally playing Project Diablo 2 Season 8. He hasn't played for... I was like doing Christopher Walken, and then I started to do Captain Kirk, and now I'm just going to talk more about the actual video. I don't know. Sometimes I go off a little bit. Anyways, he's doing an ROB map with his Poison Nova Necromancer. Some cool things to note about this Poison Nova Necromancer. It uses an Ondals Spire. The cool thing about Ondals Spire, it's a very high defensive item. You can still hit your FCR requirements with the gear he chose, like a Rada Sphere. And the other part, besides having high defense and skills and some other good stats, as we're going to see later on the skill screen, is it also has a chance to proc Weaken. Now, it's not super impactful, but trust me, Weaken is an OP curse, okay? The reason people don't use Weaken is not because it's not OP, it's because usually people just prioritize damage over defensive abilities in this game. But trust me, any Necromancer out there who thinks they need more survivability, Weaken is a great choice, okay? Elemental damage does not exist in this game. The famous words of Horny Vegan, one of the greatest hardcore players, Necromancers of all time, who, by the way, I taught him everything. What are the other special things about this Poison Nova Necro, besides it being so budget, cheap, I know? He's running an Act 3 Holy Shock Merc. Now, there's like a whole bunch of discussion in our group right now about the mercs to use right now. In general, Act 3 is the best for poison, although as you saw, there is some reason to use the famous Emilio still. There's even some thoughts about using Act 1, physical or otherwise. Well, actually just physical for Poison Nova, okay? Don't get too excited about Vigor Merc on Poison. But Act 3 is pretty a stable choice. I think Prayer is super overrated, but as you can see by his life totals, it is nice to have some constant healing in this game, and also he is the tankiest of all the mercs. Cleansing is also good too. Now, he could have a Plague IG and easily fix that issue, and trust me, he will probably make a Plague IG unless he changes his shield on his merc, which of course is an Exile. He's running the Innocence setup with Exile. The helm is a Howl Tusk, which actually we're going to talk about that on this build specifically, and the weapon is a Warshrike. Now, as we talked about, Warshrike does 4,000 damage per Nova proc on the Act 3 Holy Shock Merc thanks to his massive Lightning Mastery. Okay, it's a level 40 Nova. Combined with his huge percent of Lightning Mastery, it does massive damage. Now, the reason why Howl Tusk might not be good on this specific version of an Innocence Act 3 Merc is mainly because you actually want the Innocence to keep proccing. Also, since Topwoog is... maybe budget isn't the right word for it, but since his setup actually does less damage than other setups in the game, although it does have different advantages like having way more defense, and trust me, defense is nice. One of the reasons why I convinced him to stop running Prayer Merc is because since you have so much defense, you do need less life return, okay? You can kind of deal with just a life after each kill, and yes, I know Blood Warp takes a lot. You're still going to take damage. You're still going to take elemental damage. You can just use a few pots during the map and enjoy the static field, which is absolutely OP, and of course the Warshrike for some added damage. Now, what is the problem with Howl Tusk on this build specifically? Since there's a little less damage, I don't know if you noticed the mobs running away, but you can talk about the map mods real quickly. Monster velocity is usually a good thing. You could argue on Poison Nova, maybe it's not as good for it on other builds, but I wouldn't call it bad. The problem is, when you combine monster velocity, especially vigor, and the fact that your merc procs Howl, it's actually really annoying on this map. Now, I would really like it if Topwoog admitted this map isn't the best showcase of Howl being annoying. I do understand his point. Since he does a little less damage, also since he's relying on the Warshrike proc to kill the Corpulents and Champs and Elites, especially the tankier ones like Corpulents and Flesh Crawlers, then he really doesn't want the mobs running away. He wants the mobs staying in melee range at most, and then even otherwise. There are some issues with lower damage Poison Nova and Howl. I know it doesn't sound like them running away at all should affect Poison Nova, but Colby mentioned it, and if Colby mentioned it when he was more budget that Howl was a little annoying, let's just say the chance that a mob runs away when you're a little more budget, affects your play. And so that's something to keep in mind. So, besides that, map mods were absolutely great. Splash did very little. So, as you can see, he's got 3-socket carapace, the 3-socket Ondals, Rada sphere, 3 sockets. It's actually, well, amazing boots, a solid 20 FCR ring. He's at 125 FCR. Of course, he's going to show that off. He's got quite a bit of PSN mastery for not running 3-piece and having a very strange setup. Like, of course, we're no longer running Bramble. Now, let me talk real quickly about Bramble. Bramble is still an amazing option, but yes, it is in a weird place where it's not a good budget option and it's not a good in-game option. And then the second point is there's not much of a mid game that's necessary for poison. Either you're doing T1s or you're doing T3s. And doing T3s is so hard, you probably don't need Bramble at that point. So yes, he's showing off his amazing defensive stats. They're quite good, and then there you go. I'm surprised he's only at 7,000 defense. Oh, there we go. I was going to say, I think it's actually higher than 7. Oh, it's the minus defense mod. Okay, so you can actually see how the minus defense mod isn't as bad as we originally thought, but it definitely still adds up. I think the roll was like 30%, and so that's how he lost 1,000 defense there. So this is his Warshrike. Now, technically, a Warshrike with ignore target defense would be better. That would make the Innocence proc more because Blade Shield does have to actually hit to proc. Besides that, I guess Skelly King out. GG, guys.
Come and play with us, Danny. Forever